Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking into the case of Rachel Morin,
Oh, yeah.
a Maryland mother of five, who went missing on August 5th, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And, you've given us a lot of material to go through here. We've got
Mm-hmm.
articles, investigative reports,
Yeah,
forum discussions, and honestly, it's a tough one.
it
It's
is.
the kind of case that really makes you question your sense of safety.
Absolutely. And, Morin disappeared while hiking a very well-known trail
Right.
in broad daylight. And that in itself, I think, is unsettling for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Violates our assumptions about, where and when we're most vulnerable.
Yeah, you think it can't happen here, not to me.
Right.
But this case really forces us to confront that uncomfortable truth.
Yeah. And then when you add in the details of the case, it becomes even more chilling.
Oh, yeah.
Morin's body was discovered the next day, and the cause of death, strangulation,
Right.
suggests a very personal, intensely violent attack.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And the lack of immediate answers only fueled the anxiety in the community.
Right.
There were no witnesses, no apparent motive. It seemed like a random act of brutality.
Mm-hmm.
But then a few weeks later, the investigation took a dramatic turn with a DNA match
Yes.
that connected this case to a cold case home invasion in Los Angeles.
That DNA match identified Jared Cole as the suspect in both cases.
Wow.
And he managed to evade capture for years after that LA incident.
Really?
Living off the grid using aliases, the whole 9 yards.
It's incredible.
His ability to completely disappear for extended periods is, I think, one of the most fascinating and disturbing aspects of this case.
So let's talk about that. How does someone effectively vanish in today's interconnected world?
Right.
I mean, we leave digital footprints everywhere.
Yeah.
I feel like I get targeted ads just thinking about buying new shoes.
Right.
How did this guy manage to stay under the radar for so long?
Well, it suggests a high degree of planning
Yeah.
and a very deliberate effort to avoid leaving any trace.
Okay.
Cole was meticulous in covering his tracks. No social media presence, limited use of technology,
Right.
and a nomadic lifestyle that made him incredibly difficult to pin down.
Yeah.
Think about it, even something as simple as using a credit card can create a trail.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Cole seems to have understood this and actively avoided any activities that could compromise his anonymity.
It's like he studied how to become a ghost. A shadow blending seamlessly into the background, which makes me think how many people crossed paths with him, completely unaware of the darkness lurking beneath the surface.
And that raises another unsettling question. Was Rachel Morin specifically targeted, or was she simply in the wrong place at the wrong time?
Right, because from the sources you provided, it seems there's no known connection between them.
That's right.
No prior interaction, no shared social circles, nothing to indicate why she would be singled out.
Exactly. And this is where understanding criminal profiling becomes so crucial.
Right.
It's about looking beyond the surface details of a crime and trying to understand the motivations and behavioral patterns of the perpetrator.
Okay.
In Cole's case, his MO, or modus operandi, in the LA home invasion differed significantly from what we see in Morin's case.
So for those of us who aren't familiar with the term MO, could you explain what it means in this context?
Yeah.
And how it helps investigators?
Of course, modus operandi refers to the characteristic methods and patterns a criminal uses when committing a crime.
Got it.
It's like their signature.
Right.
In the LA home invasion, Cole's focus seemed to be on terrorizing the family and acquiring valuables. It was about power and material gain. There was violence, but it was directed at property, not people.
Okay.
But with Morin, the brutality of the attack and the seemingly random nature of the victim suggests a different MO altogether.
Okay, so how do these seemingly contradictory MOs fit into the bigger picture?
That's what makes this case so perplexing.
Yeah.
The escalation from property crime to murder without any obvious connection to the victim raises a lot of questions about Cole's evolution as a criminal.
And just when you think it can't get more complicated, there's the discovery of the cabin in Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
This is where the case takes a potentially even darker turn, right?
Indeed, acting on an anonymous tip, authorities searched a secluded cabin rented under an alias but traced back to Jared Cole.
Okay.
What they found inside was deeply disturbing.
This is the part where I get chills. The cabin contained numerous photographs of women.
Yes.
Some appear to be victims of assault, while others matched descriptions of missing persons from various parts of the country.
The discovery of these photographs significantly changes the scope of the investigation.
Yeah.
We're no longer dealing with the suspect in two isolated incidents, but potentially a serial offender operating across state lines, possibly for years.
Wow. So this deep dive just took a plunge into some really dark waters.
Yes, it did.
And this is just part one.
We've got a lot more to unpack.
We do. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are deep diving into the Rachel Morin case. And it's a complex one.
Yeah, I did.
We've covered the initial shock of her disappearance, the DNA link to Jared Cole, and the chilling discovery made at that Pennsylvania cabin. It's heavy stuff, but understanding it might help all of us be a little safer, a little more aware.
Absolutely, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to recognizing patterns of dangerous behavior.
Okay, so last we left off, we were grappling with the implications of those photographs found in the cabin.
Right.
What does that tell us about Cole? Is this officially serial predator territory?
Well, the evidence certainly points in that direction.
Okay.
While a single act of violence is horrific, a serial offender operates with a different level of premeditation and compulsion.
Right.
They often derive a psychological reward from the act itself.
Okay.
And the trophies they collect serve as reminders of their power and control.
And that's where those photographs come in, right?
Exactly.
It's not just about the act itself.
Right.
But the need to document it, to possess these women in some twisted way.
Exactly. It's a deeply disturbing aspect of these cases, and it speaks to a profound lack of empathy and a distorted perception of reality.
I keep thinking about how easily he blended in, how he managed to live what appeared to be a normal life while harboring such a dark secret.
Yeah.
It's almost like a double life, a Jekyll and Hyde situation.
That duality is actually quite common.
Really?
In cases involving serial offenders.
Interesting.
They often have the ability to compartmentalize, to present a charming, even charismatic facade to the outside world while concealing their true nature.
It's terrifying because it means anyone could be hiding something like this. It makes you question your own judgment, your ability to read people.
That's why it's so important to be aware of the red flags,
Yeah.
the subtle signs that might indicate someone is living a double life, things like inconsistencies in their stories,
Okay.
an inability to maintain stable relationships, or a history of manipulative behavior.
But isn't it incredibly difficult to catch someone like that?
Yeah.
I mean, they're practically experts at deception.
It's definitely a challenge for law enforcement, but
Yeah.
not impossible.
Okay.
One of the key strategies is to focus on behavioral patterns and inconsistencies. Even the most meticulous criminal will eventually slip up, make a mistake that exposes their true nature.
Like leaving behind those photographs, for example.
Precisely. It's a reminder that even in the digital age, physical evidence can be crucial.
Yeah.
And with advances in forensic technology, even a tiny trace of DNA or a latent fingerprint can be enough to break a case wide open.
So as investigators piece together the puzzle of Jared Cole, what are some of the specific challenges they're facing?
Sure.
I imagine finding someone who's actively trying to disappear is like searching for a needle in a haystack.
Oh, well, the needle is not only constantly moving,
Right.
but it's also disguised to blend in with the hay.
Oh, wow.
Traditional investigative techniques like relying on witness accounts or establishing predictable routines
Yeah.
are less effective with someone like Cole.
Okay.
He's deliberately avoiding leaving a trail.
So how do they even begin to narrow down the search?
Sure.
And where do you even start?
It's a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
Forensic analysis of the cabin will be crucial. Fingerprints, DNA, anything that might link him to other victims or associates. They'll also be using digital forensics to track any online activity, however limited it might be.
That makes sense. But Cole seems pretty tech-savvy when it comes to covering his tracks. Do you think they'll be able to find anything useful?
You'd be surprised how difficult it is to be completely invisible in the digital world.
Oh, really?
Every transaction, every online interaction leaves a trace. Even using a VPN or burner phone doesn't guarantee complete anonymity.
Okay, so even a digital ghost can leave a few footprints.
Yeah.
But beyond the technical side of things, how does understanding Cole's psychology help investigators?
Profiling can be invaluable in predicting his next move.
Okay.
By analyzing his past actions, his choices of victims, his methods of operation, we can start to understand his motivations and anticipate his future behavior.
Okay.
It's not about reading his mind, but rather recognizing patterns and using those patterns to guide the investigation.
So, for instance, knowing that he seems to prefer blending in rather than standing out could help narrow down the geographic search, right?
Exactly.
He's more likely to be in a place where he can easily disappear into the crowd.
He might be living in a quiet suburb, holding down a regular job,
Yeah.
interacting with people who would never suspect the darkness he carries within him.
It's a chilling thought,
Yeah.
but it also gives me a sliver of hope. It means he's not untouchable.
Yeah.
He has to interact with the world, even if it's on his own terms.
And those interactions create opportunities for mistakes,
Yeah.
for witnesses to come forward,
Really?
for law enforcement to close in.
But what about those photographs? They suggest there might be other victims out there, people who haven't been identified yet.
Right.
How do investigators even begin to unravel that part of the story?
It's a painstaking process.
I bet.
They'll be working to identify each woman in those photos, cross-referencing them with missing persons reports,
Okay.
and potentially reaching out to other jurisdictions to see if there are any unsolved cases that might fit Cole's MO.
Wow.
It's a massive undertaking, but it's absolutely essential in bringing closure to those families and holding him accountable for all of his crimes.
It's heavy stuff, and we're not even done yet. This deep dive is proving to be as unsettling as it is fascinating.
And in our final part, we'll explore the broader implications of this case.
Oh, okay.
What it tells us about the challenges of identifying and apprehending those who operate in the shadows.
Yeah.
And what steps we can take as individuals to protect ourselves and our communities.
So take a deep breath, gather your thoughts, and we'll be back in a moment to finish this deep dive into the dark world of Jared Cole. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the Rachel Morin case. It's been a heavy journey filled with twists and turns and, honestly, a lot of unsettling revelations about the dark side of human nature. But as we wrap up, I'm hoping we can shift the focus from fear to empowerment. What can we learn from this case that might help us be a little safer, a little more aware of the potential dangers lurking beneath the surface of everyday life?
That's a crucial point. We can't live in a constant state of fear, but we can be informed and vigilant, understanding the patterns of behavior, the warning signs, the ways in which predators operate. That's where true empowerment lies.
So let's talk about that. We've explored Jared Cole's MO, his ability to blend in the chilling discovery of those photographs. But what about his psychology? What drives someone to commit these kinds of acts?
It's complex, and there's no single answer that fits every case. But one common thread we see in serial offenders is a profound lack of empathy and inability to connect with the suffering they inflict on others.
We see that in the LA home invasion, the way he terrorized that family, the calculated cruelty of it all, and then he just vanished, seemingly without a trace of remorse.
Exactly. And that same chilling detachment seems to be present in Rachel Morin's case as well. The brutality of the attack, the randomness of the victim. It suggests a deeply disturbed psyche, someone who views others as objects rather than human beings with their own feelings and experiences.
And what about the photographs? Those seem to speak to something even darker. A fascination with control, with possessing his victims in some way.
The collection of trophies is often a hallmark of serial offenders. It's a way of reliving the act of asserting dominance. Even after the fact, it feeds into a fantasy world they've constructed, one in which they hold absolute power over their victims.
It's like he's creating a twisted narrative of his own life with these women as characters in his sick game.
That's a powerful way to put it, and it highlights the challenge we face in trying to understand someone like Cole. Their motivations are often rooted in a reality that's completely alien to most of us.
So if we can't fully grasp his motivations, how can we possibly hope to predict his next move or prevent future tragedies?
It's not about getting inside his head, but rather recognizing the patterns of behavior that are common to individuals who share similar traits. We look for consistencies in his MO and his victim selection and the way he interacts with the world.
So, for example, knowing that he seems to prefer blending and maintaining a facade of normalcy, could that help investigators narrow down their search?
Absolutely. It suggests he's more likely to be drawn to environments where he can easily disappear into the crowd, places where anonymity is the norm. He might be living in a quiet suburb, working a mundane job, interacting with people who would never suspect the darkness he carries within him.
It's a chilling thought, but it also means he's not some mythical boogeyman, completely untouchable. He has to interact with the world on some level, which creates opportunities for him to slip up, to make a mistake that exposes his true nature.
Precisely, and that's why it's so important for law enforcement to utilize every tool at their disposal: forensic analysis, digital forensics, behavioral profiling, and perhaps most importantly, the cooperation of the public.
That's a good point. People often underestimate the power of observation, something that seems insignificant, a fleeting interaction, a detail that feels out of place that could be the missing piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. We all have a role to play in keeping our communities safe. It's about being aware of our surroundings, trusting our instincts, and speaking up when something feels wrong.
This case has been a stark reminder that evil can lurk in unexpected places, that even the most seemingly ordinary person can harbor a dark secret. But it's also a reminder that we're not powerless. By being informed, by being vigilant, by working together, we can make a difference.
And while we can't bring Rachel Morin back, we can honor her memory by learning from this tragedy, by using this knowledge to protect ourselves and those we love.
I think that's a powerful message to end on. Thank you for guiding us through this complex and difficult case. It's been a journey, to say the least.
Thank you for having me. It's important to have these conversations to shed light on the darkness and to empower ourselves with knowledge.
And to everyone listening, stay safe, stay aware, and never underestimate the power of observation. This is the Deep Dive signing off.